So Mavis, can you just tell us a bit about how old you were when you went hop picking and where you went, etc.?
The first time I was about 6 years old, and my cousin Nancy used to go with my granny, and I did a talk about this hop picking, and my mum says to me, said to all the children, would you like to go hop picking with your granny? I think the first time I went with my granny and my cousin Nancy, and when we got there, going on the train was very exciting. And the night before, packing the things up, putting the blankets in and the different things as we got to last us. I think it was 6 weeks we went for. Anyway, the morning came. The night we couldn't sleep. Me and my sisters, we couldn't sleep. So the next morning, walked down to Daisybank station. But we had to carry a big trunk. We got no transport. So my older sisters held the trunk and carrying baskets with bits of food in and sandwiches for the journey. It gets on the train and the steam was coming out the train and the whistle was blowing and the man with his hat on was saying, aboard, all aboard. Off we went. And it was magical, that journey, because I'd never been on a train, I'd never been in a car, and I'd never had a holiday, which we thought hop picking was, but we didn't realise it was picking hops. We thought it was picking apples. So when we get to Ledbury on the train, the lorry's waiting for us, help us with our bags and our boxes. We all had to sit on our boxes going down the country lanes and looking at the sky, and there was no sound of aeroplanes. There was nothing to be frightened of, and you could see the birds and the corn in the fields, which I'd never seen. And I don't really think I'd ever seen a cow. I don't think I had, except in a picture. To see them and to see the sheep, that was lovely. So when we got there, Miss Nan, the farmer's wife, would say, no, she wasn't the farmer's wife, she was the farmer. She'd say, put your boxes away and come into my kitchen. When we get in there, it was more than a Christmas meal. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. There was all sorts of joints of meat, from chicken to pork, beef, a big dish which I remember so well because I loved potatoes and swedes all mashed up, and a big lump of best butter on the top, which we never saw really during the war. So anyway, we'd have this lovely meal. Then we'd go back to our barn, which had got half doors on. Then we saw all these bales of hay, and I thought, oh, what are those for? I'd noticed them before we went in for our meal. And my mum and my gran, they got the army blankets out the trunk. First of all, we had to put the bales of hay. I think that was about 2 high, and I was only a little girl. I was looking over the top, and I thought, oh, exciting to sleep here. They put the blankets down, then they put what they call twill sheets over to stop the straw coming through. Then they filled our pillow slips. Then my granny said, get the oil lamps out. And Miss Nan's, whoever it was who worked for her, bought these. I think they were Italian prisoners of war. They bought these oil lamps in. I looked up, and on the ceiling there was the hooks. And above the straw where we got asleep, I put the oil lamps. Of course, no health and safety, so I never ever thought about it. And but we didn't light them till it was getting dark, and only one person could light them or interfere with them, nobody else. You couldn't stand on the store and jump up and touch them. They wouldn't allow that. So anyway, the first night, my granny said, "Come on, babe, get your head rags on." And I thought, I said, "What's that, Gran?" I said, "Come here." I said, "If you don't put it on, you'll have them earwags in your ears." I looked at my mum looked at me, and that tied my head up. A big bow on the top, and all my sisters, we all stood there. I don't think we wore pyjamas. We had called what was nightshirts, and they was like flannelette with long sleeves. We never wore slippers. We never wore socks because the coupons didn't allow it. They could have coupons for your clothes. They never allowed us to have socks. So anyway, we got in, and for the first time for about, it got to be 12 months or more, I had the best night's sleep ever. Because all we could hear, there was no aeroplanes, there was no bombs, there was no Stuart and Lloyds to worry about being bombed. And it was so peaceful. I just couldn't believe it. You could just hear the wind in the trees and the water in the little brook. So, woke up the next morning. My mum had got the breakfast cooking with my granny, and it was a big iron pan. I couldn't lift it up, and it's got a hook on the thing, and a thing hanging on this big pan, and it was held on a hook over the little fire in the wrought iron setting. That bacon and eggs, it was one of the best meals I've ever had in my life. So anyway, being a little girl, I said, "Gran, I want to go to the toilet. Mum, I want to go to the toilet." I hadn't gone the night before. I don't know whether anybody else had, but I hadn't. When I got there, it was just round the corner from the barn, at the back of the barn. There was a wooden structure with is it a wrought, when the roof curls, what is it, that? Corrugated roof. And a piece of earthen sacking tacked on the door. And I says, "Nance," to my cousin, "are you sure this is the toilet?" I says, "Yeah, go on in." I says, "Now just sit down." And there was it was raised up about that big. It was all right for a child, but heaven help an adult. And there was a hole with a bucket in. Well, it wasn't a bucket, it was like a big drum that went down. And on it was it wasn't a proper toilet seat, it was just something fashioned for you to sit on. I thought, I don't know whether I like that or not. Anyway, washing, we could go to the brew house and we could have a wash, but the water was always cold. So we just, being children, just splash a bit of water on us. Off we'd go. Now when we went out of the barn, one of the beautiful experiences was seeing the sun come up, because we had to go up a bit of a hill climb and we had to climb over a fence. And I sat on that fence and I thought, God, this is paradise. It was absolutely fantastic. You could smell the country air, which to me was new, and I thought it was beautiful. And you could see the birds flying. There was no anxiety anywhere, no fear of being bombed. And I sat on top of the fence, and me and my cousins, we shouted, "Yippee, here we come." We run down to where we got to pick the hops. And I was so picking, pick. My granny said, "Now let's have a race. See who can fill this hopper first." I said, "Right, here's my pile." So I was going at it, and I was just big enough to look over the thing. My cousins, of course, they won. But every day, my gran and my mum would take us in turn. Me, they realise it. They'd say, "Oh, you've won today, Mavis. Oh, you've won today, June. You've won today, Pat. And you've won today, Nance." So we won every week. But we worked Saturday mornings and we had Saturday afternoons off. So Mother would say, "Come on, here's the ration books. Get down to Brosbury. Here's your bags. Get the shopping." Off we trot. And as we was going down, because everything to me was new. And if I seen a little hedgehog or even a rat, I was saying, oh, look at that, just as if I'd seen a lion or a tiger, because in the towns you never saw much, did you? Anyway, we get into Bosbury, and there'd be the baker's shop, and they'd have all the lovely little cakes, homemade cakes, which you didn't get that quality in the town, definitely not. And if you did, the people who were queuing first had them. You just had the rubbish. And we'd have these buns with currants in, and mulled cloves, and all sorts of stuff. And some wasn't rationed, so we'd fill our bags, stagger back. On that 2 miles back did seem a long way. And get back. Mother would make us a cup of drinking chocolate. We'd sit round the fire drinking this. We never bothered about it being wet or cold. We just sat outside. And if it was wet, we just didn't bother. Even when we were picking the hops, if it was pouring rain, we just didn't bother. We carried on. When we got back of a night, we'd strip off, put our night shirts on, because we was tired then. But it was a beautiful, lovely experience. And what else happened to us?
So can you just tell me a little bit more about, you said when you were at home in Dudley that you felt really anxious because of the war and everything. Can you just tell me about kind of the feeling and then of getting to the country and it just being really peace? I mean, you told us a little bit about, but just it's really nice, that whole thing that you're saying, just that lack of anxiety. And then how did it feel then when you had to come home? That must have been quite hard.
Well, when we was going to come home, well, let me tell you about the Saturday night first.
Oh, yeah.
Right. We'd have our night shirts on, and our mum would say, right, you can get dressed now, and it'd be about 6:30, because we finished work and we'd done our shopping and we got soaking. And the German and the Italian prisoners who was on the farm working, they used to make wine and cider, and they'd have a little bonfire. I don't know why they didn't go back to Ledbury, but them prisoners was there, and they were quite affable young men, and you wouldn't have really thought they was prisoners of war. And they'd bring us this jug full of cider, and we was allowed to have cider. And something I'd never had, a packet of Smith's crisps. I'd never had any crisps in my life. I used to think that was a lovely Saturday night in the country, with the mist just coming down on the autumn evenings, and you could hear the blackbirds and the birds just singing, and it was really lovely. It was a lovely experience, that was. Yeah. But the best part about it was not having anxiety. I didn't know it was anxiety. It was the most horrible feeling in your stomach and your head, and it lived with you day and night, because in the daytime I could tell when the German planes were coming over by the sounds of the engines. And the back where my mum lived was the Great Western Railway in Carousel, and it used to have all the war weapons being took from wherever to wherever. And you'd see the trains, and there'd be dozens and dozens of trucks on the back of the train filled with tanks and guns. And then you'd have the planes coming over, and you could see there were back of that field there was our soldiers were there in the pits with the guns. It was like an army camp thing, and you'd hear the big guns banging. Well, all that had gone, and you hadn't got that. And gradually that peace come over, that you can't buy it. And for a child, and I mean there must have been thousands of children in the war that had that anxiety. And I never realised what it was till I lost a baby, and I had anxiety then. And then I realised what the war did to all the children. It took away that peace and that magicalness of childhood. Yeah. So that was
so
that
did
one.
that come back a bit when you went hop picking, then you kind of
You what?
Did that feel, so that sort of feeling of being allowed to be a child?
Oh, it was wonderful. It was wonderful to run through the cornfields and to hear the birds singing, because, believe it or not, we never seemed to hear the birds when the war was on, because there was usually heavy planes droning in the sky, and you'd see the dogfights. And it was just horrific. It was horrific. When I gave that talk at the school in Ledbury to the children about what it was like to be a child during the war, I said, well, I'm going to finish now. I said, and I must tell you, always say no to war and always try to end things peaceably between nations, because there's no winners during war, is there? None. But my time at Ledbury, it was magical. And now my 3 daughters are there, and I could have a home there tomorrow if I wanted it. But I do love the Midlands.
Can you tell me a little bit about the, is that all right, that drilling noise?
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about, I'm interested, you saying that there were sort of prisoners of war working on the farm. Can you tell us about who else went hop picking? Were there lots of you went from the West Midlands together, or was it
what it
gang
was,
of you went, or were there, who else was on the farm working?
it was always the same people, or working, or people who came down with us.
Well, people who went hop picking, did you
Well,
go
with
with
us.
people?
Well, there was the Syces from Prince's End, they always went. There was the Timminses from Carousel, they always went. There was the Parkses, there was my Granny Kelsey, my Auntie Gladys, and my mother, my brother Ivan, my sister Pat and June and me, and my lovely cousin Nancy, because she was one of my favourite people. Yeah. No, she lives on the Isle of Wight now. But
so when you got there, who else was on the farm? There were prisoners of war, were there?
prisoners of war, German and Italian, I'm sure there was the 2 lots. Yeah, but I thought of a night they would have took them back. I don't know whether they did, because our mum said that we went to bed after, as soon as it started to get dusk. We weren't allowed to go only on a Saturday when they bought us the big jugs of cider. But I must say, they seemed, from what I can remember, quite pleasant young men. And you wouldn't have believed they was at war with us. You just wouldn't have
believed. They were probably
believed.
glad to be where they were, weren't they?
Yeah,
on the battlefields.
And they were very clever.
Yeah.
They used to make us wooden toys, like little trains and little things to bring back, and perspex, little brooches with little flowers put in. So they were quite kind. But Miss Nan was a lady. You'd see her in a jodhpurs and a pork pie hat. And she used to have a whip in her hand. I loved her horses. Yeah, and it'd come round and ask if we were all right. And I'd always have sweets for the children. I'd give us a few sweets and that. Yeah.
So did you had the children worked all day long, or did you go?
Yes, we did. We did. I mean, I was only 5 or 6 when I first started. But of course, I was the main picker when I was about 14. I could really work at it. I had that money. Mother used to go to get the money for Christmas. And looking back, we might only have earned £15 in 6 weeks as we bought back. But that ensured that we could have a good Christmas. And that's why we all went. But my granny, I used to have a haircut once a year. And that was when I was going up picking. And say, cut my hair, I'm going up picking.
So what do you think the adults felt about the hop picking? Was it a nice time for them as well? Was it just hard work? Or?
It was, well, I never realised it was hard work. Never. To me, it was fun. And it was, people were happy and joking and singing. They'd all be singing the war songs or all sorts of things and these silly little ditties. And then lunchtime, my granny would undo a piece of, probably a towel, and I'd have all sandwiches in and bits and pieces. But we only ever drunk water while we were out. I'd have bottles of water. We never had a warm drink in the day till we got back. But the food tasted beautiful. And the butter, it was nothing like the butter that you buy in the shops. It was so creamy and delicious. Even a piece of toast tasted like a feast. Because your taste buds are sharp, aren't they, when you're a child? Yeah. But I think I enjoyed every time I went. And I could never remember a bad thing happening.
Can I ask you why you stopped going?
Boyfriend. I realised after it, I was about 15, and somebody said, well, you ain't going up picking, am you? Good God, I didn't realise you went up picking. I said, I did, it was lovely. I said, you must be joking. Oh my God. When you went to that farm with Miss Nan's, you ought to have gone to Squire Wheeler's. You'd have had a shed. I said, I don't want to go to Squire Wheeler's. I like Miss Nan's. But as you get older, like when I started work in Woolworths, Dudley. Yes. But it was, how can I put it? It was like an escape from the war and all the turmoil that was going on. And I'd have gone, even if they hadn't paid me, I'd have gone and done it. Yeah. And then from then I always wanted to live in the country. And I tried, like living at Clun, but I had this homing instinct for the West Midlands. Then at Newquay, Cornwall, little hotel, I still wanted to come back. So you've got to be born in the country, haven't you? But my 3 daughters love it. They love Ledbury. And do you know, occasionally we used to have to walk into Ledbury, which had got to be about 5 miles, to go to the cinema. And I think the showing was about 3 o'clock of afternoon. And we used to, opposite the cinema was the hospital. I told you about this. And when we'd been up picking for a couple of weeks, we all broke out in a rash. I was scratching away. Says, Mum, I am itching. And my granny said, let's have a look what's up with you. I said, oh, you'll have to go to the hospital with that. Says, you haven't got impetigo. I says, well, scratching away at myself. And my sisters and my cousins. So we all had to troop down to the hospital in Ledbury. That's when we found out there was a cinema opposite. And the nurses there, it was only a little old-fashioned hospital. They used to strip us off, stark naked, stand us on a table and paint us with all blue stuff all over our little bodies. So we got blue marks all on our face, but it never stopped us up picking. We'd be back on that Monday morning picking the ups. When we went to the cinema, after we'd walked down, and I think we'd been to the hospital as well, to have our ichikoos, we used to call them, to have them painted. We'd all troop in the cinema, infecting half Ledbury. Oh dear, dear.
What film did you see? Can you remember?
Well, all I can remember was the food tastes like food that I've never tasted before. It was absolutely first class. Even the mum used to put a lot of potatoes on the fire, and when that cooked, that'd be so crispy, the skin. And Miss Nan would send us a block of cheese. Oh, that was another feast. And really, looking back, I think it's a shame that they've stopped up picking and mechanised it, because for the poorer families who never had holiday, never seen the sea till I was about 16, it was a lovely, lovely experience. And it was one of the magical times of my childhood, and my sisters, and my cousin Nancy. It was lovely. When I get up of a morning, I open the back door and I look out, and it's misty and the dew's on the grass. That's when it always reminds me of up picking. and the lovely smell. But of course here I got the buses at the back. But in the country, to me it was like perfume. And sometimes you'd smell lavender and it had just come floating from the farmhouse garden, the smell of this lavender. It was really sweet.
The hops have got a strong smell as
So
well.
I've got lavender in my garden now, and apple trees and pear tree. You try to make it a big country vine, don't you?
Can you tell me that little thing that you said about why you thought it was apple picking that you were going to do?
Well, I said up picking, but our dialect was in the country. I always thought it was apples. It was the biggest shock of my life. That and sleeping on the straw bales, which was, I've never slept so well in all my life. And I've always had very good beds, but I've never slept like I did when I was a child. I think it was a combination of the country food, the fresh air, and being out in it all day. And we'd all come back suntanned, happy, and enough money to have a nice Christmas. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
There was just one other thing that Marsha told me to ask about, which was she said that you mentioned something about the hop king and the hop queen. Was
The
that
hop.
Did there used to be a hop king and queen or something?
Not where I was. You must have missed
No, you
somebody
don't know
else.
about that. No.
No,
Okay.
no,
All right,
no.
that's fine. Okay,
No.
fair enough. So what's your kind of fondest memory, or one thing that you remember you just think, that always makes me giggle, that story, or that? Is there one thing or too many things?
I think my fondest memory was getting on the train, because I'd never been on a train, and it was so excited because there was the Pullman cushions and the what do you call it, the man who puts you on the train, and the guard, and blowing his whistle and the steam, and it really made you excited for your holiday. Yeah. I never call it working. To me it was the best holiday you could have, and anybody with any gumption ought to just say, advertise hop picking holidays, and I think that'd sell like a bomb. Or else our pensioners would go. Yeah.
That's great.
You never get bored. You never got bored. I mean, we were only children, and we must have been there till 5 o'clock at night, and 8 o'clock of the morning, because the mist was still on the grass was still wet with the dew, and it was fantastic. And some of the sunsets over Ledbury, because we were high up, it was out this world, and it was such a blessing to get away from the home, like the life that we got with the war being on, because you could sleep in peace, and you weren't going to be bombed, and your relatives weren't going to be blown up, because we was all sleeping together at Ledbury.
Oh, that is lovely. Yes.
Just for
turn the camera off.
Well, no, just for the camera. But this is just for our information. Really. Could you mind just telling me your full name and what age you were when you went hop picking?
This is just for the record.
If you could just tell me, it hasn't got to be a story. Just say I was 5. First went when I was 5 in 19 whenever. And I stopped when I was And can you tell me the name of the farm and the name of the farmer? Because you're calling her Miss Nan, but it'd be nice to know her real name.
Cotton's Farm.
Could you just so we've got it for information? Is that all right?
Yeah.
So just tell me your name and all that.
Mavis Doughty. It was Mavis Kelsey then, right? And I first went up picking when I was 5. That was in the end of 1939. And I went almost every year. I think we went every year till I was getting on for 15. I was 14 in the June as they all went off up picking. Oh no, I went that year. It was the year I was 15. I didn't go. But I missed it. And when I'd always think, I wished I was going. But of course my friends then was more interested in dancing and boyfriends, young boyfriends. And own ice skating, roller skating, Doughty. Doughty rolled round. That took me fancy after. But I've never...
What was the name of the farm and the farmer?
Oh, the farm was Hill Farm, Bosbury. Cotton's farm it was, but it was Miss Nan who was the farmer. But sadly she died very young, in her 30s. So, yeah.
Do you know if there's still hop farm there? Or?
Well, I don't really know. I have been round. I went round and there was hop farms, but whether it be the same one, because we went in the lorry down the lanes to the farm. We were so excited. You know. I think there was, but I think it's all been mechanised now. It's all done by machine right now.
Yeah.
But it's a shame because it took your mind off everything.
Yeah.
And it learned you to respect people and to help people as a little community, which is something you don't always get in the towns, is it? We all looked out for one another and nothing was ever stolen or took, which was a miracle today.
Lovely. Do you want to have a look at some of these photographs?
Oh yes, please. I wished we'd had a camera, but we weren't rich enough. Oh, well, that's the gypsies, ain't it?
Yeah, so there weren't any gypsies where you were working then?
No. How do you do this?
Yeah, so you just...
I enjoyed the 20th century.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So this is the crib, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Hops.
We used to put, when we first started, my sister Pat was so small, we used to put her in the crib to have a little sleep.
Oh, yes, I've heard that. And what's this lady doing here? She's counting up your...
Oh, yes, putting your bushels down into...
See how much to pay you?
Yes, that's counting how many bushels you've done, writing it in the book.
It always amazes me. He looks so smart, that guy. Look, he's got his tie on and everything for working, isn't he?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, we were kept clean and tidy.
Yeah.
We had wonderful food.
And this
that was like us.
The fire.
But we got the barn, and as I say, round the back was that toilet. But we had to get on with it. So that was it. We never thought anything about it.
So you all cooked on a big open fire like that, did you?
We had a brazier with the iron, and there was like a thing over the top and a hook hanging down. We hooked all our pots on. And my mother could make anything on that. Porridge was that thick, your spoon stood up in it. Well, that's how he was.
Yeah.
Yes. Are these Midlanders?
Yeah, these are these, I'm not sure actually. I think they're a mix of, there's some gypsy families in there.
Oh, it's a gypsy family. Gypsy man. There weren't any gypsies on there. Have you noticed? So all the boys the same age.
Yeah.
And where we was, it was all girls, except the little tiny boys.
So were the boys have all been at war then? Would they all have been in the war?
Yes.
Yeah.
My brothers were. Yes. Yes, my brothers were.
I think that might be it actually, but there's some more. I'll show you these ones are some
it's
children.
very interesting to me.
They're lovely, aren't
Very interesting to me.
These are really lovely.
I ain't even got a mobile phone, have you?
Oh God.
I don't think you're missing
don't
much.
Don't worry about that.
I don't want one. That one drives me mad. When you've got 21 grandchildren and grandchildren and 5 of your own. Bless them. Oh dear. Got a little wellies on, bless her. Oh, we don't look quite like that, I know. Aren't you? You don't know, do you?
No.
Oh, bless him. Oh dear. Oh, it's beautiful.
Lovely, isn't it?
Oh, what a beautiful little girl.
That's all the children.
Oh, I should imagine all these are gypsies because I couldn't
Yeah,
get their hands, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Squire Wheeler, I don't know whether you've had anybody from his place.
No, where was that then? Squire Wheeler. So is that as in he was a Squire Wheeler?
Yeah, it was Hereford, I think.
Oh, okay.
Squire. But he had huts.
Okay.
And each
That's
family
the
had
last one. That's it.
Each family had a hut.
Oh, okay.
But we was all communal.
Yeah.
Now,
So
when you're a child, you accept what you've got, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
You don't think, because it's, well, like some people
if
said
you're
to me.
happy there, you don't think, oh, I want to be in a hut, do you? You just think.
Well,
yeah.
like some people, fancy going up picking. I said, hey, it was lovely.
What they thought was a bit common. To be doing
Underprivileged. And they missed a treat.
Yeah.
Whoever didn't go,
Yeah.
honestly, because the comradeship. And I say, all of us went to that hospital and was covered in all that stuff. And
Yeah.
we're standing there stark naked, all little girls. Well, they was painting me. I think I don't know, it was nuns in that hospital. Or whether they look like nuns to us in their uniforms. But right opposite was the cinema.
That's a good find.
Yeah, yeah. And there was a sweet shop. And I remember the sweet shop in Ledbury. It had got windows, little bullseye windows. And we'd have black toffee out there. It probably had all black toffee out our faces when we walked home. But wouldn't we have been tired walking 6 or 7 miles back home? Yeah. But we did it.
Yeah,
and,
didn't get lost.
And we really enjoyed it. Yeah, yeah.
That's absolutely lovely.
Shall I stop recording?
Yeah, that's...
Is that okay, Mavis?
Yes, yes.